Warm welcome to Global Peace City Network session at Pyeongchang Peace Forum. Pyeongchang is the convener city of this forum, and Pyeongchang means peace and prosperity. It is a great honor to have the mayor of Pyeongchang in our session, and the city of Pyeongchang will continue to be a critical partner in this network. I'd like to ask the mayor of Pyeongchang to come and give a welcome speech. Please, sir.
반갑습니다.
It's nice to meet all of you today. I am the mayor of Pyeongchang, Han Wang-gi. Today, at the Pyeongchang Peace Forum, we are having this parallel session on Peace City Network across regions in conflict. I'd like to thank Lee Young-gil, advisor of the Future Strategy and Public Diplomacy at the government of Gangwon, for organizing this meaningful event. During the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, the world became one under the theme of peace. And we are carrying on the activities and the work to continue on this legacy of peace. And this calls for specific actions of implementation. This session is part of such efforts for implementation and will present us with excellent answers. The university has abundant talents and human capital and also has spatial infrastructure, its campus. And in a global networking and alliances, it will be a strong propelling force to move this process forward. And the Peace City Network established through this session will recreate peace for the world, and Pyeongchang Peace Forum hopefully will be a very meaningful time for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, for your encouraging message for the participants at the session and those who are connected online. In fact, due to pandemic of COVID, almost all of the participants are online, but they are linked to us, and I've been informed that more than 50,000 participants in this conference are connected online currently. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to discuss how cities can be connected with one another to better do for peace promotion. There are quite a number of cities which are experiencing conflict. But at the same time, there are cities that experience already the conflict and have learned a lot from it. So they are peace promoters. And there are many different cities which want to be engaged in peace process one way or the other. We invited from 9 countries who could be a facilitators of this peace process. Now, this will be a continuing platform of Peace City endeavors. And you please take this as a launch pad. That means this is just the beginning of the things that we like to do in coming days. We want to expand to more cities to cover different aspects in the city. For example, the combination of the city government and universities would be one of the special features of this network. But not only that, but also there are combined efforts between governmental and non-governmental organizations, along with civil societies, to facilitate peace. So there will be a variety of dimensions and approaches that we're going to take in coming days around this session. So we start this session with excitement. And I'd like to start with the city mayor of Yangon, which is known as a borderline city that's attached to North Korea across DMZ. He has a lot of visions for unified Korea, and they have tried a lot of initiatives, and they have plans for the future for the unified Korea. So let me ask Mayor Mayor Jo In-mook of Yangon City to make a presentation first. And after him, I will ask Vice Chancellor Amal Yamnam from India. Please.
이야기하면 되나? 네, 안녕하십니까?
Good afternoon.
양구 군수 조인묵입니다.
I am Jo In-mook, Mayor of Yangon.
평창 평화 포럼을
I'd like to congratulate the opening of 2021 Pyeongchang Peace Forum, and I hope that there will be a butterfly effect that would lead to peace and unification on the Korean Peninsula through this event. What I want to share with you today is peace. For peace and the future of the Korean Peninsula, the border areas should play an important role. We need to look at this from the perspective of the border areas. Economy, democracy, citizenship, in all different aspects, South Korea has become an advanced country. And in the COVID-19 pandemic situation, we have verified to the world the stability that Korea has. And Korea was able to have great economic progress and success. And based on sacrifice, we were able to fulfill the democracy. And now we have the accumulated experience of citizenship and civic activism. And behind such success, there are also problems that exist. And that would be the border areas. When the nation was undergoing infrastructure development, a lot of the border areas were excluded, and the border areas were used for defense purposes, for training ranges, and it was given heavy burden and did not participate in economic development. And the border areas right now are suffering from various social problems, including the aging of population, and it is relying only on the military for its economic growth. So introduction of sports marketing and other practices are being introduced to try to revive the border areas. And border areas are now receiving global spotlight through the Winter Olympics and these forums. President Moon Jae-in also, during his speech, mentioned that the two Koreas share 5,000 years of history. We were divided for a short period of time, but we eventually have to be united. But the process of unification will not be all easy. There are neighborhood countries with different interests, and the two Koreas also have complex problems to resolve on their own. And so on these problems, the government may take the lead. However, we need to also have all of the stakeholders participate for the different channels to proceed together. And the local governments also have their role to play. They should be given enough power to participate. Particularly the border areas, which is at the road connecting the Korean Peninsula and the world, their role should be utilized. From the 1970s, Korea has had Miracle on the Han, and now we want to change it to the Miracle of Peace on the Korean Peninsula. And what will determine the fate of the two Koreas is to begin the effort from the top, but to ensure that the bottom also participate for greater efficacy. And we can start with small exchanges in the border areas, and that is going to be priming water for eventual unification. For example, North Korea has a deforestation problem. It has weak agriculture, and in tourism also and other areas, we could have a lot of exchanges promoted so that we will eventually expand the scope of activities that the two Koreas participate. And the DMZ with global value should be made into a global symbol of peace. And when that happens, the DMZ will contribute to establishing itself as a global ecological zone and also as a zone for global cooperation. The 10 border area local governments should participate in selecting projects for exchange with North Korea. And from our city's perspective, agriculture and tourism would be important areas of cooperation with North Korea. Recently, Univer-City has been producing much apple, and previously, it was the southern parts that were producing apples, but because of changes in climate, we are now producing apples, although we are a northern part of the city, and northern part of the country, and this trend will continue in the future. And so we could start small with the projects for cooperation in agriculture, for example, and we could use this for branding and to promote this area globally as a center of tourism. And when these projects will be successful, the border areas will be given new opportunities and will be able to grow further, and we will be able to create new sources of continued progress in the future. And Yanggu is actually at a crossroads. It is a strategic place that connects Korea with other countries. From Gosong to Daegum River and all the way to Yanggu, we could have a circular tourist track established. And these projects could be pursued under an overall framework. Along with the unification initiative of the central government, we will be able to contribute to strengthening the pillar for eventual unification. And we could have a peace zone established in the DMZ for providing education and training to people from all over the world, and providing the experience centers and education centers at the DMZ that could be run, operated by the UN or other related agencies that is going to lead to easing of tensions on the Korean Peninsula. The two Koreas meeting together and having a single team for the 2018 Winter Olympic Games. We still remember the excitement that we felt. We had 3 Inter-Korean summits and 2 USDPRK summits, and we were hoping for peace watching these historic events. And at Pyeongchang, the spirit of peace, we are sure, will continue to lead to eventual unification and peace regime. Through the opportunity given to me, I try to introduce to you Yanggu as well as the situation of the border area. So it's been a great honor. And to all the participants of the forum, to the experts who are here with us, those who are dreaming of peace, I would like to express my gratitude to you. And at the Pyeongchang, I hope that the Pyeongchang Pyeongha Forum will continue to connect the border areas, be a bridge between the two Koreas, and contribute to global peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the excellent speech that you have made, which is inspiring to all of us. As you said, when the city goes to the point of crisis, that could turn into opportunity. So thank you for your excellent presentation that highlights on that aspect. Now, the next presenter will be a Vice Chancellor of Moneypool University in India. Vice Chancellor here is the President. So Dr. Yam Nam will come and make his presentation about India.
Well, it's wonderful to be with friends who are lovers of peace and life. Let me start with a brief explanation of where our location is like. Manipur is in the northeastern corner of India. Well, in other words, Manipur is a province bordering Myanmar. Or in other words, we are closer to Southeast Asia than we are to South Asia, which India is. Well, this is a very important context which I'll be emphasizing while I go on. Well, we all love life. We all long for happiness. But love for life and a desire for happiness cannot be something which could be realized in a vacuum. The context is very significant because peace can be a continuum only in social and economic contexts remain more or less the same and they do not get destroyed. Because context leads to many implications relating to behavioral issues. These behavioral issues are at individual level, at a collective level, and at a policy levels. Well, where Manipur's context is, how Manipur has been experiencing lots of conflict issues and has been a conflict region in this part of the world for decades together. Well, Manipur's context is that the cultural, demographic, institutional, and geographic continuum of Manipur is with Southeast Asia. But the political continuum with South Asia, well, it was an abrupt continuum which was, well, met a reality in Southeast Asia. So whereas cultural, demographic, institutional, geographic continuum are with Southeast Asia, the political continuum became abruptly well merged with South Asia, that is India. Well, here the problem arises because the seat of power in Delhi is more than 2,000 kilometers away, almost 2,500 kilometers away, number one. Number two, the power sharing method in India is such that, well, it's very skewed in the sense that it doesn't serve the interests of the peripheral regions. And this becomes a much more intriguing problem because the political continuum is a very recent one. Well, this political abruptness have been coupled by absence of any approach to evolve a new continuum. Well, earlier social, cultural, demographic, institutional, and well, economic continuum have been destroyed. The question is how to evolve a new continuum based upon this new political continuum, which is an abrupt one. Well, this definitely calls for evolving a new appreciation of the diversity and the differentials. Well, peace, well, which have been slowly have come back during the last 1.5 decades in Manipur and for that matter, the entire northeastern region of India, have been the result of emergence of a new realization and the imperatives of this realization. Well, the new realization is such that we must accept the differences in a heterogeneous in the cultural sense, heterogeneous in the geographic sense, heterogeneous in the institution, that is social norm sense, and institutions, and the geographic sense. Well, this realization has been the foundation of peace slowly returning to Manipur and Northeast India during the last 1.5 decades. Well, the role universities or institutions have been playing in this is that, well, the university faculty have been trying, not many, but a few have been seriously trying to bring the different sides, well, South Asian side and the Southeast Asian interest side and the contextual realities of the dynamics of these two forces coming together, being played out in a particular place, the university community have been trying to understand the dynamics of this. Well, the problem now, slowly this realization have enabled us to come to a kind of understanding between the security forces or military forces and the Zambian public. The fundamental reality now is that we have to couple this with a new realization in policy formulation. While framing policies, we have to understand all these contextual dynamics of Manipur or contextual dynamics of Northeast India. That is where we have the biggest challenge. As I mentioned earlier, well, the power dynamics is such that it doesn't serve the interests of the peripheral regions. So policy formulation necessarily involves how the power politics gets played out. And that is where our next challenge is. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Jamon. You discussed about the issue of center and periphery, which brings the issue of political dynamics. So thank you very much for highlighting that issue that is unique to your region and also role of university in this. I'd like to ask Professor An, who is the Vice President of Hallym University, which is located in Chuncheon. Chuncheon is the capital city of Gangwon province, and they have already a good experience of a cooperation between the city government and the universities. Now, please, Dr. An.
Hello, good evening. My name is Dong-Gyu An. It's nice meeting you here. And before beginning, let me say a little bit about Pyeongchang as a peace city. I was involved in Pyeongchang Winter Olympic since the beginning of our bidding, which is almost 20 years ago. At that time, I was a finance chairman of the Pyeongchang bid committee. That time, Pyeongchang is, Korean letter, two letters, Pyeong and Chang, and initial letter is PC. So we call P City Pyeongchang, the P, not personal computer, like PC. So Pyeongchang is very meaningful. And also, one more point is that, Korea is a divided country, like North Korea and South Korea. Everybody knows that. But not many people know about the Gangwon-do is the only divided province in the world, which means there is North Gangwon-do and South Gangwon-do, Gangwon province. So peace is a very important issue. Today I want to share my experience of GUN, we call gun, but it's not the weapon of gun. That GUN means Global University Network. That university is spelled different like university where I work. That is not SC, so Univer-City. So this is interplay between city and university. So that is a little different concept, but the definition of university is you can define in your own way, but to me, the definition is university, the city where the university is located and university officials occupy a large proportion. And Chuncheon is the capital city, provincial capital in Gangwon province. Even in Chuncheon, there are 6 universities. National university, private universities, 4-year college, 2-year junior college, and polytechnics. And the population of Chuncheon is 300,000 people, but among them, almost 20% are university-related. So we are the major stakeholder. So Chuncheon is good form of university, not SC. So last year we started Global University Network. we designed like a platform where city mayor and president of university work together. So, for example, like my university president and mayor of Chuncheon is one partner, and then we are looking for international partner to work together with global issues and university-related issues. Even in Chuncheon, there are many socio-economic issues, but this is very important. And today, Jo In-mook, Yangon mayor, mentioned about local issues. And my question is, who is doing that role? University is the main leading initiator to work with a city plan. Yangon is has a lot of special needs, but unfortunately, Yangon doesn't have many potential people and professionals. But university inside, there are many potentials. So how do we come together with one partner? Let me give you an example of one good partner that I work with. In Hong Kong, there is a Hong Kong Polytechnic Universities. They have the project called CUP Cup, a cup of coffee like cup, but that CUP is a city university partnership. So they have 17 cups project. So in the Hong Kong is divided by 17 areas. So each area has a special project and problem, and then university class matching with this one. So one class is linked to one region. So that is called CUP. And another example I want to share is that when I was a student, I studied in the United States, which I studied is the North Carolina, but there is a RTP Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. There are 3 universities in Durham and Raleigh and Chapel Hill. The Duke University private and National University of North Carolina and North Carolina State University. 3 universities can make a research RTP, Research Triangle Park. So that is very natural things. So this is a very important area. And also you can imagine Silicon Valley and Boston. So university is the leading actor to develop the citywide project. Let me add 2 more things. These days, now we are doing this online Zoom kind of setting project. So platform is very important. So I want to give an idea of LLLP. City can be a lifelong learning platform. So LLLP. Well, in university, we have a lifelong education. And city is, these days, city can be using as a virtual space, but this is more like a hybrid version of working together with the city and the universities. So the idea of lifelong learning platform, we can give many idea and project and even financial suggestion in that hybrid version of virtual place. And also the couple of things I want to share is that the role of university is a little different. The city and university has a very complementary relationship, which means university is very strong at initial stage like visioning, planning, but city is very strong comparative advantage in executing or action. So we can work together with as a combination set of stage. So that's my point. The last thing what I mentioned is that I want to give my model of localization of project, which is called VANP. VANP. V is a vision, A is an actor, N is a network, and P is a project. So I was working with a lot of prefecture in Gangwon province, and I found that when you develop the local issues, the 4 element is very important: vision, actor, and network and project. Vision, whose vision is important? Like Mayor Jo In-mook's vision is very important. And president of my university vision is important. The problem is that vision is not shared. So we have to enlarge the top vision into the people through network, through education. And second is actor. University can be a good leading actor of this project. Third one is network. How to do that? This is kind of network. We can share our experience through this kind of network, so we can share the knowledge. And that is a network. And then finally, the project is very important. Specific project we can develop together. I think this peace forum is one of the projects we can initiate this cooperation. Well, maybe one more minute. I wanna give some information on my university, which is Harlem University. Our main goal is, our vision is to become a top-notch global university. But we have three strategies. One is globalization, second one is convergence, and third one is localization. So globalization and localization is coming together. So we can put it together, we call globalization. So I think the university can be very localized and also at the same time should be internationalized, globalized. So I think in this room, we have universities and mayor and professional group. We can work together with some globalization. So I think that's what I want to say today. And okay, thank you very much for
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
hearing.
Han, for very innovative ideas and experience that you have shared, which are very helpful for all of us. And we want to follow up on what you have said in coming days. This time, I'd like to invite one more Korean, whose name is Jan Byung-gil, who is the Secretary General of Uni-Korea, that deals with South and North Korean relations, and perhaps the most largest private fund in that area. So please welcome Mr. Jan Byung-gil.
Thanks a lot. My name is Byung-gil John Byung-gil. I'm Secretary General of the Uni-Korea Foundations. I'm very appreciated to be with you. So I just say about the Peace City and as the residents of the Chuncheon City in Gangwon Province. So people talking about about the peace in Chuncheon. Okay, just a moment. I share the presentation slide. Okay. Today's presentation title is Chuncheon is the Chuncheon through the eyes of peace. Okay. I would like to mention the two cities in Great Britain, Belfast in Northern Ireland and Coventry in the Middle England. The pictures on the left is the Belfast Peace War. And as you know, the Northern Ireland, the Catholic Irish and the Protestant Unionists have been in conflict for a long time. A peace agreement was signed between the two sides in the 1999, but not all the ones of conflict healed. There are still barriers to separate boundaries throughout the city. In the pictures, the right part is where the Catholic live. And the barrier is a little high. On the left is an area of the Protestant residents. On the picture right is and on the picture of the right is the trace of the cathedral that was destroyed by the German Air Force bombing during the World War II. This cathedral is located in Coventry, Central England. At the time, Coventry was the industrial city, so bombing was more damaging than other areas. So after that, the Coventry set the brand image of the city to the peace and the reconciliations. Northern Ireland regions is dotted with the memorial facility to commemorate the reconciliations, and Coventry holds the Peace Festival every year. Most of the peace-oriented cities have a historic background. Examples include the war and conflict of the ideologies and politics, race, and race, and the religions and the colonialisms. In addition, plaza, museums, and the memorial to commemorate the peace were built. Above all, the public policy for peace and the various research and the grassroots civic movements provide the foundations. So I think so for a long time, I just seek the peace in Chuncheon. Then how about the peace in Chuncheon, the central city of the Gangwon-do? And how about seeing the Chuncheon's past and the futures through the eyes of the peace? Chuncheon is a city divided into the north and south. When the Korean Peninsula was divided in the 1945, of course, the northern part of the city became the South Korean land after Korean War. It's playing a role as a central city of Gangwon-do, that was divided after the ceasefire. It has also been marginalized after many years in the course of Korean economic development. There are many spaces containing peace throughout the city, like I already said, like in the Belfast and Coventry. This include the names of the roads. It's 평화로, and the park is 평화공원, church is 평화교회, and the social service is 평화복지재단. And there is also department in Gangwon Provincial Office named Peace, 평화기획사업단. And the regional university have courses and subjects related to peace and unifications. Chuncheon has a historical background to wish for peace, and the related facilities and the community's willingness I think it is sufficient. Since last years, I have been preparing the Chuncheon and the Peace Project with my colleagues. Its name is Chuncheon through the eyes of the peace. So we created the Chuncheon's peace storytelling by dividing the themes into the Chuncheon's past, division and war, and the Chuncheon's cultures, youth and peace, and the imagination of the peaceful futures. We tried to draw the little peace in our daily life. I hope there are more of these attempts around us. Beyond Gangwon province and the Korean Peninsula, Chuncheon must network the peace cities around the world. I just talked about Belfast, Northern Ireland, England. Northern Ireland, England. England is Great Britain. So, what values can Chuncheon and Belfast share? There is a memorial to the participation of a Korean War near Belfast City Hall. It is a memorial of the soldiers who participated in the Korean War. 157 young people in this area died during the Korean War. The Korean War is a link between the Belfast and the Chuncheon. And among the peers from the Belfast one of them is C.S. Lewis, the author of the Chronicles of Narnia 연대기, a Christian apologist. Lewis was born in the Belfast and grew up. And the rate of Belfast influenced the world of his work. C.S. Lewis could certainly be another link between the Belfast and Chuncheon. the many Christians in Chuncheons, and they may read the C.S. Lewis's many works. I think, and the peace is not created by the police of institutions alone. Peace is achieved through the endless concern and practice of the people. Peace City is a community of people who dreams of peace. For this, the university and the local government have a law of have their laws do that and make that and realize that and come to that. And for these sessions, I think is so we just discuss many things about the peace and the peacefulity and the relationships and the good works between the local government and the universities. Thanks. That's
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much that you indicated two cities, that is Belfast and Chuncheon, which could be linked to each other and to other cities in the world. That's very exciting proposal. Now, I'd like to indicate one thing that, 5 minutes are given to each presenter, which I forgot to mention. So please try to maintain your presentation within the limit of 5 minutes. Otherwise, the person who will come later will miss their opportunity to share. Okay, so this time, let me ask Mr. Charlie Lamento, who is an international lawyer at Geneva Institute for Leadership and Public Policy in Geneva, Switzerland. Charlie, please.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Young Gil Lee. It's great to be here today. It's an honor to be here today and to present. Dr. Ahn, hello. Nice to see you again. I wish I was there with you all again this year, but I'm hoping maybe I get to come this summer. I'd like to try some fly fishing near the DMZ border. That would be kind of fun. But it's nice to see you. It really is. So I'm going to kind of discuss today a little about Geneva Institute for Leadership and Public Policy and give you some specifics, projects we're working on to assist Governor Choi Moon-sun as well in Gangwon, as also connecting the universities and the city level. I think is a great idea. When Young Gil Lee mentioned this to me, I was like, wow, good idea. It's interesting because Global Hope Network International, which is the umbrella organization that under the GILPP, works in over 51 countries. And we always find that when you go to the village level, the local village level, that is where success comes. And I think you can go take a step further and talk about how you involve the citizen-based initiatives, that there's something about solving problems at the local level, disconnected from the central government, that allows the people to be involved. Yes, elected officials are also part of that, but I think we're onto something here, and that is a good thing to help advance peace, specifically in this quite unique area in Gangwon province, right, of where it's the geographical location is quite unique to even other case studies that we discuss. Non-state actors, we believe at GILPP that international organizations, NGOs like GILPP, we play a central and recognized role in helping states and governments, facilitate those kinds of projects, including working with the universities. Geneva Institute in September 2019, we signed an MOU with Gangwon because we want to work together, partner together to bring resources. We would like to be, and we are, I see, is trying to lead them to resources, specifically my work with a representative at the United Nations is to bring resources together to be eyes and ears on the ground for Gangwon and Chuncheon as well. For them, this is offered to the mayor as well. We want to be a part of, assist you, serve you, so that we can get the resources to you, including Dr. An. I will discuss as well our new partnership even now, providing training with Unitar. I'll talk about that in a moment. Next is, so here's our proposed initiatives, and that is, we would like to help promote the global Univer-City network. And how are we going to do that is I see that we can explore relevant resources among the United Nations members. There's 193 United Nations member countries here, all living diplomats, all here living in Geneva, including international organizations like UNITAR and international universities as well, based in Geneva. These UN member states we want to focus on. I think it makes sense. I think you all agree that we want to focus on specifically United Nations member states that have experience or experience even now or intranational conflict, to share the knowledge, to share the do's and the don'ts during these kinds of things, during these conflict events. I think another issue that plays into this, you probably will agree with me, is that each of the incidences, even though there are some probably unified do's and don'ts, there's still cultural differences that play into it, right? And how you plan your strategy. And I think that's where this needs to be, even if we as outsiders, as foreign nationals trying to assist and bring resources to Korea, it's Koreans that are going to be the ones who solve this. It's going to be Koreans that are going to come up with the wonderful strategies, and then we will stand by them, with them, to give them all the resources they need and the support they need, both from the international side, so they can do their job. And I think, let's be honest here, North Korea has time and time again persisted. They are looking for solutions. I mean, the Moonshine Project, the Moonshine Principle, President Moon's, this commitment to actions. In my mind, I see what South Korea does. In my mind, I see this as actions speaking louder than words. They don't just talk, they do. And that is huge. That is a critical step. It's a characteristic of South Korea that I love. I love working with groups that are never going to quit, that always keep trying, that always keep taking actions, even if they fail sometimes, even if they don't result in the success that they want. They're still they stand back up, recalculate, and go forward again. That is an exciting group to be with. I think, so lastly, let me say that this UNITAR training, imagine the fact that they have all kinds of resources, experts. We have everything we need now. I will be presenting a proposal to Young Gil Lee after this conference is over that he could present to Governor Choi Moon-son. Dr. An, you also will be included in considering how you might want to work with this. But I also would like to investigate the UN Peace University here in office here in Geneva, and see how we could do something in Gangwon province that will, peace studies, so bring in experts and then focus on university students. I love teaching. I miss my days at Anglo-American University. I lived in Prague for many years, and Carol Ann Brum, she's here today. She represents Anglo-American and University of London projects. So that is a recipe for success. We are very passionate ourselves. GILPP is very passionate and committed. Young Gil Lee is also a part. We're a team in this, trying to share, trying to do whatever we need to do from our side to make you successful. So that I think that is a recipe again for success. That the fact that the education side of this, let me add that I would like to be known as someone who did all I can, have done all I can to create agents of change, people who want to risk and sacrifice what's needed for the betterment and lives of other people, not so that we're not just focusing on ourselves, but we're focusing on others. And that again makes life grand. Let me see. Last and not but least, there's a little bit about the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. We've already put a proposal together for sports and tourism diplomacy training. So we're ready to go to do the training in Korea or in Geneva or wherever the stakeholders agree to do the training. And the other is the fact that, I just figured this out myself, the fact that they place a great importance on building partnerships with universities all over the world. Of course, they are connected with the UN Peace University, but in and of themselves, they were created, whether you know this or not about UNITAR, they were created really to educate and prepare diplomats from all of the United Nations member states. But what happened is they started to expand because they have access to all the expert, all the resources, provide amazing materials. So I think that partnership, being able to share that partnership with who's ever, the universities, especially local mayors, local government officials, this will be a privilege to do. So I thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I'm very excited about what the future holds for peace in the Korea Peninsula. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Charlie, thanks a lot. And thank you for placing Geneva in the map of global peace city network, as Geneva is a very important city in regards to peace. And I want to call Professor Carol Lan Brown, who is a law professor at Anglo-American University in Prague, Czech Republic. Please.
So thank you very much for having me today. I'm really honored by this opportunity to speak with all of you and to get to contribute to what I see as an incredibly promising project and something that we here at Anglo-American University are looking forward to being involved with in the future as well. So I'm going to share my screen briefly. And let's see. So just 1 minute. So what I would like to do today is to talk you through a little bit about what I have seen in Prague and in the Czech Republic in terms of students and the energy that they bring in with regard to implementing change, demanding change, and on many different fronts. So today, Czech Republic is known to be one of the most peaceful countries in the world. But as you may know, this was not always the case. The recent history with Czech Republic and what was formerly Czechoslovakia up until the 1990s when the two countries split, it's been quite a past, 70 years or so with a lot of turmoil, more than 70 years, actually. And so I want to talk a little bit about the role of students in attempting to overcome these conflicts. Even before we get to this Prague Spring, as I've talked about here, we have to go back to World War II just briefly, which kind of set the stage and has really created a lasting memory for the students and for the Czech people. In World War II, 1939, during a protest against the German occupation of Czechoslovakia, one student was killed. And in response to that, there were student protests, protesting in an even stronger way, the German occupation. And in response to that, the Nazis invaded universities in Prague, Brno, and Příbram, and they executed 9 students and closed all the universities and sent approximately 1,200 Czech and Slovak students to concentration camps. And so this was obviously a terrible time, I suppose, for students and for universities. At the same time, this belief that students can make a difference and this energy that the students brought carried on. So even after World War II and during the communist regime, this idea and this energy that the students brought continued. And so we see in the Prague Spring in 1968, and this is where the President Alexander Dubček tried to introduce a lighter version of communism with more freedom for the press and for the media, more open travel, et cetera. And then, of course, the Soviets invaded in response to that. So the Soviet tanks rolled right down the squares that we walk through every day now. today in Prague, and there was quite a lot of protest against that. So we see students here protesting a svoboda, of course, meaning freedom in Czech, so trying to demand freedom. And then we see here quite a large number of protests against the Soviet tanks that had come through the streets of Prague. Unfortunately, the protests didn't achieve what they had hoped. And then we later saw the self-immolation of Jan Pollock. These pictures are, of course, from a recent movie about Jan Pollock. So these are not actual photos. There weren't any photos of the actual situation. But this is where the student, Jan Pollock, burned himself to death, and on Wenceslas Square, which is kind of our main square in Prague. And then, of course, he's been definitely memorialized and remembered for that. And that kind of shut down a lot of the protests after that during the late 1960s. So things were a bit quiet for a decade or so. In the 1980s, we see the beginning of what is called the John Lennon Peace Wall. So this is a wall in Malostranska, which is the main old town center of Prague. And it started in response to John Lennon's death. And students would continuously write protests and these expressions of desire for democracy and justice and freedom on the wall. And it caused quite a bit of clash between the police and the students at the time. And it continued, though. Today, this wall still stands, and it is kind of a symbol of these calls for those same values, for democracy, for freedom, against oppression all over the world. And so that is something that has really lasted. At Anglo-American University, our student publication is called the Lennon Wall. So it's something that we have still carried on with that tradition as well. This takes us to the Velvet Revolution of November 1989. As you see here, there were a significant number of people. It came to be about 500,000 people who eventually were calling for change, for the end of the communist regime and the entrance of democracy. But it didn't start that big. It started with students, for the most part, who were calling for peace. We see the symbol for peace or victory here. And it started this is Wenceslas Square. Again, it's one of our common squares here in Prague. And the students were trying to protest peacefully. And this originally started just as a remembrance of Jan Opletal and then Jan Pollock, who had both been killed, one during the Nazi occupation and then the other during Prague Spring. And it was meant to be peaceful, but the police reacted quite violently. Sorry, my pictures are a bit out of order. The protest grew dramatically. So it started with students. And then here we see students trying to symbolize by lighting candles that it's peaceful and that they are, they're unarmed. So they would shout, we have bare hands, we don't have arms. But yet the police nonetheless reacted quite violently. And then, of course, this led to more and more people coming forward and joining. So not just students, but workers and people from all age groups joining this protest. And eventually that led to the communist regime stepping down and democracy being introduced. And we see here Václav Havel, who was a human rights activist and, of course, a famous playwright as well, and who would become Czechoslovakia's first democratic president. So that was quite a momentous time. So this is just to show the role that students have played and this unrelenting energy that they bring in the Czech Republic in terms of demanding change and demanding, as I've said before, values of democracy and justice. And although they played a momentous role in bringing democracy to the Czech Republic, this sense of power and possibility has certainly not gone away with students. So I work with students every day. Our students are not just Czech, but from around the world. And they have very much this belief that they can make a difference and that they've got value. So we're still seeing protests today. This was from the environmental protests a few years ago. And I taught Friday mornings, and our building is right by the main government buildings in Prague. And during the Friday mornings when they were having their marches, the students, they would, it was so loud, even though we closed the windows, it was so loud with their chanting for change and for environmental justice that I always had to pause and couldn't keep teaching. And fortunately, most of my students were still there in class, but many of them did ask if they could leave, because it's introduction to law, so there's a lot of overlap there, if they could leave the class and join the protests. So it was something quite impressive to see. And then finally here we see students in Brno, I think there were high school students who are leaving. And then of course the Black Lives Matter protests. And you can see this was just this past year, of course, with the masks on as well. And then finally more protests that were quite large, right in the heart of Prague, demanding change with regard to who's in the government and who's running the government. So this is just a bit of an introduction to the energy and the belief and the possibility for a better world that the students in Prague and in Czech Republic in general tend to bring. And it's really absolutely incredible to work with this, work with these young people at this age and to help them see the possibilities for the future. So again, thank you for having me, and I am looking forward to working with you all in the future.
Okay, thank you, Professor Brown. Thank you so much for unmemorable presentation to us. Prague is quite special to Korean people as you have gone through the transition for freedom and democracy, as the Korean Peninsula is doing as well. So thank you. Let me call Mama Hana, who is from Surabaya, Indonesia. Mama Hana is chosen as the Woman of the Year by CNN. So she's a CNN Woman of the Year. Please welcome her.
Hello. Muka Mama dulu ke sini. Hello. It's truly a privilege for me to be here and to see all of our old friends again after such a long time. So I want to speak about the peacemaking in Indonesia. So Indonesia is an archipelago with more than 17,000 islands, 1,300 tribes, 600 ethnic groups, 6 recognized religions with a population of over than 270 million people. We thank God that to unite this very diverse nation, our founding fathers were inspired and birthed our Pancasila, the 5 principles, as our nation ideology and foundation. And our national slogan is unity and diversity, because it touches all aspects. Pancasila touches all aspects of our lives. It touches the spiritual aspect because the first principle starts with belief in the one and only God, the Creator. That means first is our love for God. And this actually gives us freedom to our people to worship God in accordance to their religions. But unfortunately, because of the Dutch occupation, there was a strong hostility between the Christians and the Muslims. The second principle covers the aspect of social, because it is just and civilized humanity. It speaks about love for others indiscriminately. And the third is national aspect, because it speaks of the unity of Indonesia, love for our nation. And actually, if we love God and we love one another and we love our nation, there will be no problem. But for a long time, there has been a special policy of the Dutch that tried to make us fight with one another. So it was really hard actually in the beginning, because there were a lot of ethnic hatreds and religious hatreds and others. And then actually when the 3 principles were put together, we can work with a democracy guided with the wisdom, and we have solidarity, how to work together with one another for one goal, that is social justice. For 30 years, our small foundation, Yayasan Pondok Kasih, meaning House of Love, has been helping overcome the seemingly insurmountable challenges in uniting our diverse nation through 3 practical peacemaking strategies. So the first is peacemaking in our humanitarian form for the poor with different spheres of the society. We have been working for the poor for 30 years, and I never expected that this ministry to the poor is able to bridge the two gaps which cause the most of society's conflicts, namely the social gap, the gap between the rich and the poor, and the ideological gap, the gap between the religions, races, and ethnicities. So, through embracing all the society spheres of influence, namely family, government, economics or business groups, religion, education, media, and arts, we bring together diverse groups which would otherwise never work, eat, sit together, or dialogue together. So we host and participate in national and religious celebrations, interfaith dialogues and prayers and service projects for the poor. And we have done it to build the bridge for 20 years. So here you see the declaration of peace that we made with all the different religions to celebrate. So we celebrated all national events, and then we made them all sign for preserving peace for our city and also for our province. So, and one of the collaborated service for the poor is also to pioneer nationally an interfaith mass wedding to pursue the civil rights for the poor, that is the IDs, the marriage certificates, and the birth certificates. This is what we did. So after we have done it for 15 years, then we went national. And now, this, in the third, we are going to show you how we work together with the university students in very conflict areas. And we went from one city to another city with reconciliation and peace declaration. Next. So here you see the picture of our peace declaration with the students in one of the most conflict areas that started with a quarrel between the Muslim youth and the Christian youth. And that caused more than 1,000 deaths. And the conflict was so severe. But it was really wonderful that we could work together with 13 universities. And then we declared that they never wanted to be to know one another because, you know, they kill one another. So the Muslim and Christians were killing one another. But at that moment, using the university students, we could declare the city of peace, which was before known as the city of conflict, and now it becomes a city of peace. And then we can also go to the place where we can ring the gong for peacemaking. And then we also make peacemaking through our annual youth camp and youth festival. We have gathered student leaders from the first, we made it in 2018. We had it with 145 universities, but in 2019, we had it with student leaders from 175 universities representing all 34 provinces of Indonesia. And we challenged them to show their contribution for the nation. So we invited them all from all different regions so that we can explore the potentials and the resources of each participant. Because when they come, they must be prepared to discuss the major resources and to make the proposals and to make the proposal how they can become the solution for the challenges that they have in their provinces. And so we invite them also and experienced leaders across a wide spectrum of fields. And then we also, at the same time, we also commemorate our youth pledge that speak of how we love our country. We love our country. The youth that speak of, make a declaration of youth pledge that we found since October 28, 1928, that we belong to one nation, Indonesia, live in one native country, that is Indonesia, and we speak in one Indonesian language, one national language, that is Indonesia. So by having this kind of events, we now have the alumni of our youth festivals in 340, about 680 in 34 provinces of Indonesia who are ready to become the agents of reconciliations in the areas. And guess what we did? That whatever we went, we have already gone and worked in 19 provinces. Those who will work as volunteers were students from the universities, and they who had never been laughing to one another, like one tribe hating another tribe. Now they could work together in peace and harmony. So that is what we really now. And then we also have a special. We celebrate all national and religious events, and we also celebrate our cultural events together. This is a song for the praise, for song of praise for the nation and for God. We gather all ethnics and all different religions to be together. So our slogan is "Be peaceful, my country. Be united, my nation, and be prosperous, my people." So peace with God and peace with others so that we can be united and work together for the social justice of our country. Thank you very much for the time that is allowed for me. God bless you.
Thank you, Mama Hana. And Indonesia, in fact, is Muslim dominant, but of course, of religious diversity too. And thank you for highlighting on religious aspects of conflict. Now, I want to go to Professor Grace Jamon, Professor of Political Science in the University of the Philippines. Please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm supposed to have a PowerPoint presentation. Do you hear me, everyone? What's wrong here?
We hear you. We hear you.
We can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I don't know how to zoom in my PowerPoint presentation. I sent it a little late this afternoon, but I hope Irene gets to help me with this. But anyway, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the wonderful presentations thus far. I am Grace Gorospe Hamon. I have been an educator for the last 43 years, immediately after graduation. And I am so happy to have been part of the Geneva group that Charlie has been mentioning because that was a very transformative experience for me. What I'd like to share is what my experience was in relation to education, having been an educator for the last 43 years. I just retired actually last January 29. I checked my last set of blue books. So I will be missing my students. But this is so close to my heart because for about 6 years, I was also the president of what is called the Association of Schools of Public Administration in the Philippines, which is a network of public governance schools that are networked in the association. So more than 100,000 governance schools. And it was my own personal experience that there is nothing beats partnership, nothing beats network, nothing beats the whole idea of involving the school as the fulcrum of as a platform for converging all of the other participants in whatever projects we have. So I feel very bad that I don't have my screen here. I was supposed to share it. I don't know why this came out here.
You have to just click on the top bar of your browser. Probably it is in another tab.
Maybe it's in another tab. So sorry about this. I have just an outline though. Oh, maybe. Sorry.
Yeah, it comes.
Do you see it?
Not now.
Irene, can you help me with this? So shall I press this share screen? No, it looks like we're not seeing it. I'm sorry for this. This is my fault. I wasn't able to practice this because I didn't intend to have a PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, so that you can just look at me and I could discuss about the Philippines and my own experience. Of course, I am happy about our Vice Chancellor who said that context matters. In this particular case, it's important for us to know who the Philippines is. And I think you know who we are. No, we are in Southeast Asia, an original member of the 5 Southeast Asian nations in ASEAN. We were supposed to be #1 in Southeast Asia during the 60s and the 70s. But what happened was we had a dictator who did not deliver. And that is President Marcos. Well known, much more for his wife, who had 2,000 pairs of shoes. No, I think everyone knows that. And of course, we're all known for being the new diaspora. We're all over the place, singing everywhere in bars. No, we have become a nation of overseas foreign workers, such that if you are a Filipino going everywhere in the world, you will find a Filipino everywhere. So what does this mean? What does this mean for the peace problem? It meant, therefore, that there was, because of our colonial past, because of different ideological, passionately held persuasions, both religious and cultural, as well as ethnic, because of the economic conditions, poverty, no? Only 20% own the nation's wealth. 80% are somewhere between the lower middle to the poorest. So 80% of the poor people are our poor. We are also as ethnically diverse, but not, of course, as diverse as Indonesia. No? And then access to justice, human rights, public accountability, we call it elite capture of our institutions. Business capture, therefore, marginalized are the poorest of the poor. Leadership, we had a lot of transitions. I wish I had my picture of the 1986 revolution. I don't know whether you remember that. We inspired Korea. We inspired the falling of the Berlin Wall, the crumbling of the Berlin Wall. We did it first. We call it the People Power Revolution. And we catapulted into power a woman, the first woman president. But because of the coup d'etats, about 11 of them, because of the empowerment of the military, and of course, leadership transitions, the lack of integrity and the lack of continuity in reforms, we are where we are, a country of OFWs. Now, having been in the academe for a long time, I can only say that really you are right, my friend, our Korean friend, who talks about the importance and our position to making the university a platform for convergences. One, why? Because it is the place for learning, not only of this generation, but the next generation we would like to shape into having values of democracy, of inclusion, of democratic practice, of peace. No? So learning and discourse, open to all ideological persuasions. So we teach tolerance very early in the university, to the extent that we are able to listen to all of these persuasions and understand where they are all coming from. And then, of course, there's the wide range of instruction, the wide range of research platforms. A lot of multilateral agencies would go to the university if it needs experts. So sometimes you incubate a project. It starts with a university. And then, of course, you realize you cannot do it alone. So you do it with local government, with the mayors, with business right there in the locality. And this has been my experience. Now, everywhere in the Philippines, we have 100 public administration schools. And in those places, because we believe in the town and gown, I believe that it is the academe, it is the school that has relative integrity. Relative integrity. It is one of the most trusted in the community. In the Philippines, it's second to the church. In the Philippines, they still believe in the church. Spanish influence all this 800, almost a century before the Americans came. But that is the case. So it is a platform for learning and discourse of all ideological persuasion. So tolerance. I should have pictures of the students really starting the revolution to oust our dictator Marcos. Yes, and like we have come up come up with books like this, where we study the dynamics of conflict in Mindanao. We have twin insurgencies in the Philippines. The communist insurgency because of the influence of China and of course, the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And we have, Mindanao. I think everyone knows about our problem in the South. So we have studies like this that unravel the roots of the conflict, that gets to find answers to questions like why is the peace so elusive that peace in Mindanao is not had, and you realize that it is a complex matter. That's why I believe, Vice Chancellor, I like what you were saying, that it is really context. So understanding the context, and who does that? It is researchers in the universities. That's why we go to the universities to unravel the dynamics of conflict, the dynamics of the possibilities of peace, etc. For example, findings like that they found out on the ground because of research. The role of academia. It is really the broker for peace. Because more than the politicians, more than the military, they trust academicians more than others. And then the role of women,
just 30
the role
seconds,
of traditional leaders.
Professor.
Okay, are we almost through? Okay, so there is the Association of Schools, and it has become specialized, and that's why I am saying this is the right way to go. Involve the school, involve the young people, especially they are the sources of our future officials of our government who can broker peace because of what they know, what they have learned in the university. So that's all. Maybe you can ask your questions later.
Thank you, Professor
Yes,
Grace,
thank you.
for
Thank
putting
you.
the Philippines in context, even in the middle of screen trouble.
I am so sorry. Yeah, I'll just send it to you guys later.
All right, thank you. Let me call Mr. Dan Stige, representing Jerusalem, please.
Thank you very much. Privileged to be with you. Is the presentation coming up okay?
Yeah.
Distinguished Global City Peace Network partner and Univer-City partners, thank you for the privilege to speak at the Pyeongchang Peace Forum. Let us foster the cooperation between Israel and Korea from the private sector. Let us partner together in humanitarian aid, technology, and innovation. Humanitarian peace is the advancement of peace through humanitarian aid technology. Why do we need it, and why do we need it now? 70% of all hunger is in conflict areas or war zones. If we truly want to advance peace, the humanitarian aid efforts need to arrive to those people that need the aid in the cheapest and most efficient way. According to Paul Spiegel, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, the humanitarian aid system is broken. Communities and organizations are unable to firstly know what new aid solutions exist for their specific needs, secondly, find them at the cheapest price, and to get them in an efficient manner. Disasters are increasing, firstly natural disasters like fire, floods and winds, and man-made disasters like political conflicts, water conflicts and wars. We need a new way in humanitarian aid, and that new way is technology. According to Quartz Africa, the poorest African households are more likely to have a mobile phone than a toilet. This means we can reach people better. Technology reaches people all around the world and is therefore an instrument for peace. Increased urbanization and population growth contribute to increased conflict. In the Middle East, this could become a potential humanitarian catastrophe. Some say the roots of the Syrian war can be traced back to water as more people moved into the cities. But there is opportunity. Crisis for us in Israel equals opportunity. Greatest opposition equals greatest opportunity. Just like in physics or in chemistry, where 1 + 1 can equal 3 and two opposing arrows, like on this slide, can become a synergetic force. The new way in aid is no longer shipping boxes and planes and on ships. In this digital aid, it is technology and innovation. Why from Jerusalem? Jerusalem is Axis Mundi, where the paths of the world have crossed for thousands of years. Jerusalem is the place where high energy comes together. According to the World Economic Forum, Israel has the world's fastest growth of innovative companies and has the highest R&D expenditure. Let us use aid tech just like the instrument of energy peace that was recently used with normalizations with the UAE. Especially the next generation and students, let's cooperate by using aid tech in innovation as the future. NGO aid is becoming more important. Governments are increasingly reaching their aid limits. So has COVID-19 shown. Do you help abroad or do you prevent disasters at home? Multiply this challenge with the aforementioned increasing disasters. According to the World Health Organization, in 2016, 15,000 children under the age of 5 died every single day. NGOs can do something. They can more efficiently cooperate with less regulations that a government needs to have. Digitalization has given the world unprecedented opportunities for collaboration, so why do we not use it? The goal of the Jerusalem aid ecosystem is highest aid impact, with the least spending, where the digital tracking measures the aid impact. In this ecosystem, donors and venture capitalists give, and aid NGOs and then startups, just like at the Olympics, run at corporate lean management speed. This positive competition inspires better R&D, innovation, and technology for greater aid impact. Ultimately, for better results for those in need. Just like Munich Security Conference stands for global security and the Davos World Economic Forum for global economic progress, Jerusalem has new aid, tech, and innovation competence. And so Pyeongchang has its role to play as a global peace city. Here are 4 Israeli examples that I want to bring to you. SodaStream that united Palestinian and Israeli workers to work together for something new. WaterGen that turns air into water overnight. Innovation Africa that gives solar energies to villages in Africa. And another Israeli one, Aura Air, that eradicates airborne diseases. Like these startups, cities must connect and reach their full potential as a city in water tech, food tech, med tech, and agri-tech. Just like teams that operate autonomously, but with a very clear strategy, so cities are like teams. Cities need to partner together for peace and cooperate together for strength. In this aid ecosystem, everyone brings the diversity of mission, vision, values, and brand and services, but with the focus of helping those in need. In this ecosystem, it entails charitable giving for the aid NGO and VC funding for the aid technology startups, which we need very much as well. In closing, my challenge to us all, the potential for better aid and even peace for humanitarian aid technology is enormous. Jerusalem, Pyeongchang, Chuncheon, and Yagu need to cooperate together in humanitech peace. I want to invite the Digital Education Investment Fund of South Korea for a cooperation that will be a blessing to the world and even North Korea. As you connect with Jerusalem's aid tech and innovation hub as a house of light for the nations, like in South Korea, in Israel we act. So let's talk the next practical steps to cooperate. 함께 함께 갑사. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for your encouraging words, especially for Pyeongchang, right? So Pyeongchang will be known as peace, as Davos was known for economic forum. And thank you for putting technology and innovation in the map of conflict resolution. Now, I want to ask Mr. Sean Morris to presentation. He is the chairman of Grow World, which have a very strong partnership with Huntington City in West Virginia, USA. So Grow World is a knowledge institution, and the city of the Huntington is the city government. So they have a very good story of partnership. Thank you.
Well, hello everybody, and again, thank you for this invitation. It's really a great privilege, and I have very fond memories of Pyeongchang. I was there for the Winter Olympics and served in an area of helping athletes and national teams with athlete welfare. So that's just a little side note. So love Pyeongchang and the region, and had lots of fun over the 2 weeks of the Olympics. But coming back to really the story of Huntington, West Virginia, in 2011, Huntington, West Virginia was presented and got ranked on the federal ranking system for cities, for small and medium cities, as the worst city of America. It had found itself in the last position of 13 categories out of 15. And out of that category of 900 cities, it found itself as the 900th city. Had one of the highest crime rates in the US. It was the epicenter of the opioid addiction, the highest overdose rate in the nation. In fact, some of you might have seen the Netflix documentaries on the city of Huntington around the drug addiction and opioid crisis and epidemic. When I got connected and we got connected with the city in 2012, a newly elected mayor had just been elected, Steve Williams, and it was, I call it truly God's providence, how we connected. That would take far too much time, but we had already begun working on a strategy that came out of our consultation, in particular with multinational companies and corporations, around developing a strategic narrative with a clear short-term picture that brought about and removed the silos amongst multicultural situations and dynamics. It removed the cultural differences that separated and began to see it as actually an enrichment opportunity. And in removing the silos, we saw incredible levels of collaboration and in particular then contribution. This engendered tremendous momentum. And what we began to find as we worked with companies and corporations, that we would see a significant transformation with profound growth. On average, we would see between a 200% and a 400% increase over a 3 issues, etc., etc. And providentially, we got connected with the city. Steve Williams had a great dream. We were able to begin to facilitate and seed that dream. We were able to facilitate strategies around gathering all the 35 probably most influential leaders. Interesting, you've mentioned president of the universities, institutions, and we call it the 3 C's. We gather together the civic leaders, the commercial leaders, and the community leaders. What surprised us in the journey with Huntington is that the majority of those leaders all carried a dream of a city that was a city of peace, of prosperity, where humanity flourished, where we saw an end to crime, an end to all these issues. But more than that, beyond that, we really saw the rebuilding of families, communities, and the prosperity that goes with it. What I call the true outcome of social justice. And sure enough, we embarked on this journey, began to facilitate these strategies. We used our same principles that we applied to international business. That was really framed, for those of you, many of you might be people of faith, but here's a little secret. It's framed actually out of our framework of our belief in God's dream for humanity. And that's our basis. Now, I don't usually say that in commercial secular environments. Most CEOs and boards have no idea, but that is the truth. That is where the wisdom comes from, and it works. And sure enough, we saw it work. In 2012, we began this journey. By 2017, the city of Huntington, West Virginia, was invited to participate in a platform called America's Best Community. Cut a long story short, Huntington, West Virginia won that position because of what we called Huntington Innovation Project, the HIP project, in partnership with universities, institutions, in partnership with community and commercial. And Huntington, West Virginia was voted in 2017 as now America's best community. In just a 5 to 6 year period, we saw nothing short of a miraculous transformation. Crime rate, violent crime dropped by 48%, overdose dropped by over 60%, and the story continues. In 2000, that was 2017. In 2018, we began then what we call, and we take this two-pronged approach, is the short-term narrative that creates tremendous momentum and unlocks strategic activation, and then the long-term blueprint view of a 5, 25, and 50-year strategy, socioeconomic strategy that begins to really engender tremendous amount of investment and continued transformation over a long period of time. And so we're now at the start of, in fact, we're going to implement what we call phase 2 or Huntington Project 2 in the blueprint of the long-term socioeconomic strategies and roll that out. Of course, COVID hit. Everything has been put on hold, but I am actually back in the city of Huntington, West Virginia now in March. And we continue this amazing journey. In the process of Huntington winning and being nominated America's Best Community, we've had now significant response from a number of other cities and communities all across the US and other parts of the world as well. So we're literally expanding the team, beginning to take that success, the lessons we learned, the things we failed at, and putting it together and helping serve other communities. And it's been a great privilege and honor to share that amazing, what I call true miraculous story of the transformation of a city, of a community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean, and thank you for the exciting story. I believe the time is too limited for you to share all those stories in you. And in the coming days, of course, we'll come to more specifics with presenters. And we are running out of time, in fact, so we passed the end line of the program, but there are two more who like to present. So I just want them to give attention to time factor. Now, Mr. Andreas Wieland is representing Germany, please.
Thank you, Dr. Young-Jee. I will be brief because we are I'm fascinated by what I hear from all of you, and it's a learning journey for me. So I'm more in the exploratory first phase of looking into what may be happening. Of course, Germany has a history of a lot of these processes that peace and change happening, like the Berlin Wall and the East-West German situation. You all know of that. But then I just wanted to tell you about two things that hit me in the last weeks, so very recent. Stuttgart, it's the city where I live, it has been voted to be one of the most charming and pleasant cities of the world, and actually kind of the most relaxed city of the world. So if you want to come to my city, it's really relaxed here. But about 6 months ago, we saw something happening that you would never have expected in this really calm city to happen. I don't know if any one of you heard. There were riots and looting in our city that we have never seen before, and they sprung up out of nothing. So there is no explanation. Sociologists, psychologists, social workers are completely irritated by what happened here. So young people would really get baseball clubs and really destroy store fronts. And that has never happened here in this city before. Never, ever. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I think the world is in a changing process, and I'm referring a little bit to what Professor Brown was saying from Prague, because what we are seeing here is the opposite side. There is also a destructive part in youth that has lost its way and is not being offered any reasonable perspective. So that is a big problem I see in the Western countries. So this is also a little bit of a different scene. Like Western Europe and US, Canada is kind of facing that situation. And so I think we can very much profit from a lot of things that you have been describing and have been exploring already. And I'm, for that reason, I'm really blessed and thankful to be in your midst and to be able to learn with you on this journey. And I'm actually in the process of connecting to the mayor and connecting to the president of a few universities here in the city in order to try to set up a Univer-City. The second thing I just want to mention with a few sentences is the northern part, I don't know if you know that, in the northern part of Italy and a part of Austria is called Tyrol. It is, if you want to Google it, you will find it under Tyrol. In German, it's with an I. And that region was split after World War I into two sections, so North and South Tyrol. And South Tyrol is part of Italy, and North Tyrol is part of Austria. And I've lived for 15 years in the northern Italian part, so in South Tyrol, and had very strong connections with North Tyrol, of course. But that would be something I cannot go into now, but that is a very interesting parallel situation to what you experience in the province of Gangwon and in the Korean Peninsula. And also that is something that I'm only starting to explore. So I'm very much in the beginning of the process, but I'm looking forward to connecting with you and learning with you. And I just wanted to share these two little snippets, and I'll close here because time is short.
Yeah, Andreas, but that's very helpful tips. So thank you for highlighting on those areas, and thank you for your facilitation to link to the president of the university and the city mayor. Yeah, we are looking forward to further collaborations. Now, I'd like to call the last presenter, who is Mr. Eduardo Panlilio in the Philippines. He is the former governor of the province of Pampanga, Philippines. Please.
Yes, good afternoon and peace to all. Pampanga is something like 64 kilometers north of Manila. And I was governor of the province in 2007 till 2010. During my brief stint in the provincial government of Pampanga, Philippines, by means of good governance, we tried our best to serve our people with efficient, empowering, and ethical leadership. We were able to diminish corruption as regards government projects of roads, buildings, and infrastructures by means of transparent and accountable bidding and people-monitored implementation of projects. So we are on the ground. We are not from the university. We are not from the academy. Livelihood opportunities were made available to the people through microfinance. Government hospitals were refurbished and cheap medicines were enjoyed by the poor. With such and other programs and projects, we made the people, especially the poor, realize that against all odds, it was possible to have a government that they can trust and identify with. And good governance translates into people having confidence in the government and rebel returning to the fold of the government. So it was no surprise then that we witnessed the return to government fold of former rebels who laid down their arms to join us in serving the people. Now I would like to share with you the story of a municipality in southern Philippines, in Mindanao, the story of my colleague, Mayor Romel Arnado of the municipality of Causwagan in Lanao del Norte, with his program From Arms to Farms. Mayor Romel focused his initial efforts on the peace process, trying to reconcile the government with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the Moro National Liberation Front over a decade ago. For many years, these rebel forces fought the government, which did not offer them with any hope of a life of dignity. In the year 2000, our then President Joseph Estrada declared an all-out war against them that resulted in many deaths and intense suffering. He invaded what they call the Abu Bakr camp, and there were many atrocities. And he was unsuccessful. The peace did not materialize, but the conflict hastened and became more serious. So the good mayor, Mayor Romel Arnado, his council and leaders soon realized that this municipality's root problem was hunger and injustice. Hence, food and food security became his foremost concern. He declared his whole municipality of more than 10,000 hectares as an organic farm. Each of his barangays or communities had a demonstration farm where seeds and seedlings for rice, corn, and peanuts, and organic vermiculture and bokashi fertilizer were available to the people for free during the first year. Tractors and equipments were used by the people also for free. When time for harvest came, the municipality became the consolidator, took the products from the people and sold them to markets to bargain for a better price. He also availed to his people clean water and the construction of farm-to-market roads. So this guy, Mayor Arnado, was very successful. He did not, another feature, he did not ask the rebels to lay down their arms. You may say very idealistic, but he was realistic because he demanded from them open hearts to the government and to the Philippine military, Philippine army, which was present in his municipality. When we visited Mayor Arnado's place 2 years ago, Commanders Aguila, Batman, Bravo, and companions related to us that they fought the government for many years, something like 40 years, 50 years. Almost all their lifetime was spent in wars, but they never felt the caring presence of the government. Only Mayor Arnado fulfilled all the promises his predecessors made and even the promises of Philippine presidents. Now, together with the Philippine Army, they now bring the successful Arms to Farms program in the whole and even neighboring municipalities, a program that has earned them the Galing Pook Award, something similar to the Nobel Prize, and several international award-giving bodies. For Mayor Arnado and for me, war against the underground movement is not the answer. It is a clean and responsive government that could provide the solution to food security, oppression, and hopelessness. This approach speaks of peace and reconciliation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, former governor of Pampanga. And it's very impressive to hear from Arms to Farms campaign, which the other cities would like to learn and implement. And thank you for sharing that inspiring story. And now we are coming to a close. I'm sorry that we do not have enough time for even free discussions and for responding to the questions that's been raised online. As mentioned, this time in this forum, more than 50,000 clicks we are witnessing. So it's much more than we have we experienced last year when we did offline mode. So it's very encouraging. And we will follow up on what we have discussed. In fact, we meant to know with one another. So even though we have not had enough time for interactions, but at this moment it is good enough for us to get to know one another, and we will follow up on what we have discussed in coming days. So this is the launch of the Global Peace City Network across the regions in conflict, and we are celebrating the good beginning. And thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.